So thank you everybody for coming to our Chino Valley Leaders on the Coronavirus webinar. We're trying to do this every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9:30. I'm trying to get it set up on Facebook Live, but I don't think it's working this morning. So what I'll end up doing is I'll share this on YouTube. I would love it if those of you that are in attendance could help share this out. That way we can make sure we get the information to folks in the Chino Valley, particularly businesses in the Chino Valley. We have a good lineup of panelists here today. So we have our Chino Police Chief Wes Simmons. We have State Senator Connie Leyva. We have U.S. Congressman Gil Cisneros' representative Stephanie Wade. We have County Supervisor Curt Hagman. We have the Western Region Executive Director from the U.S. Chamber, Jennings Imel. And we have Inland Empire Utilities Agency Director Steve Elie. So we have a good group of folks that are here as panelists to give you some insights on what's happening with the Chino Valley and in different areas so that you can make proper decisions and know what to do. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to our Chief of Police from the City of Chino, Wes Simmons. Wes, take it away.
Thank you, Zeb, and appreciate you continuing to host these weekly meetings with the Chamber and allowing me to come on and share kind of what's going on the City of Chino side and the police side specifically. Calls for service continue to be down, but we are still seeing an increase specifically in domestic related calls and then mental health related calls. So just encourage all of us and our families to seek out help if they need that, and know that the police department is available, and we're still responding to calls, responding to businesses that need us as well. So that has not changed. Our staffing, as far as the number of patrol officers we have out there every day, has not been reduced. And I'm most happy to report that none of our personnel have experienced any symptoms or tested positive for this. So we're all still healthy and able to reach out and assist the business community if they need it. I would also like to share specifically our dispatchers who are working really hard during the midst of this crisis, fielding a lot of calls. I would encourage people, if you have COVID-19 related calls or questions, go to the city website. It has a great list of frequently asked questions and answers there, which is updated constantly. So good information there. Go there. Do not send your calls to our dispatch center. Also, when we're talking about dispatch, this happens to be Dispatch Appreciation Week this week nationally, and normally we do some grand things for them, but we have them locked down inside our dispatch center, and we can't even go in and visit them because we're trying to keep them healthy so they can continue to be available to answer your 911 calls. But keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they have families as well out there that they're trying to take care of while coming here and taking care of our community. I also would like to share that the City of Chino is working with the county to host a drive-through testing site. Hopefully sometime next week. More information to come with that, and we're actively working with them to get that going. That's all I wanted to share, and I'm available if you have any questions or are there any concerns that I can handle.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me do some brief kind of announcements to those of you that are attending. This is a great opportunity to ask questions. So if you have questions of any of our panelists, this is a good opportunity to do so. Feel free to ask those questions. I also want to encourage you, I was trying to get this go live on Facebook, but it's not working. So instead, I'd like to encourage you to visit our Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. Our top post is the one that's the invite for this event. Feel free to go in and share that invite with your audience and people you feel like would be interested in attending, especially businesses in the Chino Valley. With that, I want to kind of, Chief, what's kind of the biggest change that that your agency has experienced since this thing started?
Great question, Zeb. Our officers and our personnel love interacting with our community. They love getting out there, talking to kids, meeting one-on-one with people, shaking hands, and that's probably the biggest changes. This whole social distancing concept, which has, I think, been successful for us here in California, especially in keeping us healthy. it's difficult. And so, doing things through Zoom and where we're able to connect with people. We've done a few drive-by parades for people while they're in their house. But we really enjoy connecting with our community, our residents, and our business community, and that has distanced us. Again, I want to reiterate to our small restaurants out there and businesses that are still providing takeout orders. Our association and others are buying food every day to help support them. But we do enjoy going to our local restaurants and sitting down and spending time with the owners and the people that work in those places. So that's been a huge change for us.
And then what laws are there? Anything that's being enforced as it comes to this? I know there's kind of some misunderstanding about what's being enforced, what's not. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, when it comes to the penal codes and the vehicle codes, everything's still being enforced. Okay, that has not changed. Now, the state has done some things to hinder incarceration of people. For example, state prisons are no longer taking any new inmates or transfers, so nobody's going to state prison right now. Obviously, they're having an issue with COVID inside of their locations. County jails just are site releasing as opposed to keeping people, which hinders us in with our recidivist offenders, these people who continue to commit crime after crime. But we're still out there and taking them to jail if appropriate. But I want to share that if somebody breaks the law, we will deal with that person. Now, how that looks, whether they're going to go to jail and whether they're going to stay there, is up to the judicial system. The California Judicial Council also passed on Monday $0 bail when it comes to most crimes. Again, this is an effort to minimize the number of people who are incarcerated and forced to be inside of our jail system. But that's not going to stop the Chino Police Department from holding people accountable. Now, when it comes to the health orders, we're enforcing those through friendly reminders. We are not citing people. We're not taking people to jail for violating the orders. But we do strongly encourage people to abide by those orders, because that's what's keeping us safe right now. We're hoping that we're going to get beyond this critical point and things are going to start getting better. But that doesn't mean a free-for-all and people can disregard these orders. That is really what keeps them safe, but more importantly, what keeps their family safe. People are making comments like, well, I'm not going to get sick, I'm going to be fine. But you certainly don't want to take this virus to a loved one who does get sick. So again, I encourage people to continue to abide by these orders. When it comes to our local parks, we have closed our parking lots, but people are still welcome to go to the parks. Just make sure you maintain social distance. We have closed the playground equipment and things like that to, again, protect people. But go to the parks, get outside, and wear your mask.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I know that this isn't your realm, but we had a question about fire. I know we also have somebody from Chino Valley Fire that is coming to there, but do you know anything about any fire calls recently?
We just had our EOC briefing, and the fire calls continue to be down, which is a good thing, like our police calls. And our firefighters and paramedics are on the front lines of this. They're walking into potential cases of COVID regularly, and I just applaud them and thank them as along with the hospital for the work that they're doing to keep us all safe.
Okay, perfect. And then I know Danielle is in here, so Danielle might be able to answer that question as well. Okay, here on. We have one more. How have school resource officers' jobs been impacted, and are they being utilized in other areas?
Very good question. So our school resource officers are also investigators, and they're part of our Criminal Investigations Bureau, and they oversee, and along with keeping our schools safe, oversee juvenile crime. So they're still working. They're handling their juvenile crime caseload and dealing with that, though they miss their students a lot as well.
Okay, Chief, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Have a great rest of the week.
All right. God bless you guys.
Thank you. Bye. All right. Next up, we have our, let me pull her up here. We have State Senator Connie Leyva. Senator, are you there?
I am here, and I just got a little, Zeb, you were telling me if I want to use video, you should log in using the email. Okay, so I logged in incorrectly because I did want to use the video, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for having me again this week. I want to talk about a couple things. I want to start with EDD. When I was on your call last week, we had a call later in the day with Secretary Julie Sue, and they have moved 200 folks from one department into the unemployment department in an effort to make sure checks can still be cut within a 3-week period. And for some folks who have not been on unemployment before, they may not know that 3 weeks is the standard turnaround time once you apply for EDD. As you can imagine, they have thousands and thousands, millions more claims than they've had before, but they're still able to turn the checks around in 3 weeks. So if someone asks from the date that they apply, they should get their first check within 3 weeks. And one thing that has changed is that 1 week holding period is no longer a 1 week holding period. You will get 2 weeks the first time you get a check. As of last week, the federal government had not funded through the CARES Act the additional $600 that each EDD recipient will get. But what the secretary said is people should not worry about that. They don't have to do anything different. Once the federal government funds the CARES Act, those checks will automatically be sent out, and in the future, the $600 will just be added to their check. But the most important thing is folks don't have to do anything different. Secretary Sue was hoping that the funding was going to come in on Sunday night. I will find out today if that actually happened. I wanted to give a little update on the Chino men's prison and women's prison. We get a number of calls, mostly from the women's prison, but some from the men's prison. So I did have a conversation with Secretary Ralph Diaz yesterday about some of the things that were happening. He gave me a little update. So throughout the state, 55 inmates have tested positive. 34 of them are at Chino. One is at the Chino Women's Prison. More concerning is that 84 staff members have tested positive. So now everyone is given their temperature is checked when they come to work every day, and folks are sent home if they do have a temperature and they are sick. 3,500, as of today, 3,500 inmates will have been released early, and 200 of them are female. They are looking to possibly do an early release on some other inmates. However, the secretary said that this is challenging because things aren't always in place to make sure that folks are able to be released back into the community and have everything they need. So any early releases going forward, he said they're going to look very hard at and make sure they have everything they need to help folks be successful. They have given money to San Bernardino County to help with the early release folks in the form of hotel vouchers and also mental health vouchers to make sure that they're getting what they need. Part of the problem was cleaning. The calls we were getting is that people weren't masked. There wasn't enough cleaning being done. Those issues have all been addressed. Every inmate has been given 3 masks. Guards have been given 2, and by the end of the week, everyone should have 5, and things are being cleaned. Not that they were dirty before, but on a more regular basis, and with the COVID-19 idea in mind. So we will continue to check in and make sure that everything is going okay with our prison population, because as I'm sure everybody knows and thinks about, this is an area where the virus could really run rampant. Last week, someone had asked about taxes, and I think I did a little research, I think what they may have been talking about was the split roll initiative, because last week when we spoke, it had just qualified for the ballot. So the campaign needed about 1 million. They needed 1 million signatures to qualify. They ended up with 1.7 million. And this is to qualify the updated version of the Proposition 13 split roll initiative that would tax commercial and industrial properties at their regular fair market value. It will not change. This initiative, if passed, would not change Proposition 13 for homeowners. What it would do, there was already an initiative. This will replace the other initiative. The differences are properties worth 3 million or less would not get reassessed. That is up from 2 million in the previous measure. Rather than taking effect in 2020, it would take effect in 2022. The new measure is more specific about how the money would be allocated within the school system. It would be about $12 billion that would be raised for our schools per year. The first $500,000 worth of business, personal property, or company equipment inside of a building would not be taxed. And advocates of the measure believe that it would generate the needed funds for local schools and government when they are most needed. It was interesting as we thought it was needed before, and now with COVID-19, we know that funding for our schools are going to be needed even more. So this is an initiative that will be on the ballot in November, and it will be up to the voters to decide. Team Leyva continues to be available. We have someone in the office every day from 10 to 4. Please do not stop by. We will not let you in, but we're taking calls and doing whatever we can do to help our constituents who call us, and we're still continuing to reach out to our senior centers, our food pantries, and help them distribute meals. That is my report for today. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Well, yeah, we do have a couple of questions, and forgive me if I kind of phrase these wrong, but I'm going to try my best here. Does the state have a plan to help out covered California subscribers and pay their share of the coverage during the crisis?
That's a great question. And no, not that I'm aware of that the state is actually going to pay. I think those are the premiums that folks are talking about, but I will absolutely find out. I know that Covered California has extended the time frame in which people can sign up because so many people have had a life-altering event, but I do not know if the state is actually going to be paying for those premiums, but I will find out. And Zeb, can I get back to you with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And somebody did chime in with a response to that question in the chat section as well.
Okay.
So that's also there as well.
Oh, got it. Yep.
And then also there's a question about qualifications for the release of those prisoners. So do you know what those qualifications are and who is being released and that type of information?
Yeah, what the secretary told me yesterday is that the inmates that have been released thus far have been within 30 days of their release date. So these were folks that were about to be released anyway, and any further early releases, the secretary said he would be coordinating with the governor on that if it was even going to happen. But these were folks that were within their 30-day window to be released.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and update our members and our community. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
You are most welcome. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you. You too. Next on our list, I'm going to put them up here, is our U.S. Congressman's representative from Gil Cisneros' office, Stephanie Wade. Stephanie, are you there? I think you might need to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I just have really 3 quick updates. The first is, this should be a big week for us. We know, especially for the business community, we apologize that, banks have been sort of the bottleneck in getting out a lot of the SBA loans. And we think that's starting to free up. I'd be interested to hear from anybody who's having success or trouble, and I'm going to post my information in the general part of the chat in a minute. But we do think that SBA loans are starting to flow a lot better. And the other thing is that we should be seeing stimulus checks coming out this week. So if you're an electronic filer, sometime within the next 8 or 9 business days, if you're qualified by income in your most recent filing year for a stimulus check, you should receive that in in a form of direct deposit. And then we know by the 23rd, we expect to see Social Security recipients who are non-filers should also start to receive direct deposit of their stimulus checks. And then the first week of May, moving forward, we should see hard checks for those who've not automatically filed. So the updates I have for today are first that Congressman Cisneros is hosting a town hall tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. That's obviously a socially distant town hall. So that'll be a telephone town hall. And so I'll be posting in just a moment in the chat both the number to sign up and then an RSVP link that allows you to submit questions in advance. We're not screening the questions, but we are going to take a few questions first because we know we can cover a lot of ground if we don't repeat the same questions. So if you'd like to submit one in advance, you have a much greater likelihood of getting your question answered. But we will also be doing Facebook Live and taking questions on Facebook Live. And, so there really will be a free flowing opportunity to speak with the congressman, and that's not just questions or asking for resources. That's, if you want to share something with the congressman about something you think the federal government should be doing, please take this opportunity because we want to hear from as wide a group of the constituents as possible. That's what the congressman's asking for. So again, I'm going to post the number to call in. It's tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. And there's also an RSVP link. You don't actually have to RSVP, but we prefer that you do it because it'll give you the opportunity to submit questions in advance when you've thought it out. And then the other update I have is I'll also be posting a link because we have a lot of veterans who are non-tax filers. And what they need to do is especially disabled veterans or retired veterans that haven't been filing taxes in order to receive their stimulus check without having to wait till the end of the tax year. What they need to do is fill out an extra form, and I'll be posting that link as well so we can get you in the pipeline to get your stimulus as quickly as possible. I'll look at the chat for any questions people may have, but Zeb, unless you're seeing something, those were the only updates I had.
Okay, yeah, we do have a few questions. Let's see. So a couple of our members have applied for the EIDL loan, that advance. So it's stated on March 30th that they would get theirs within 3 days, and in some cases, in one case, it's taken 2 weeks, and somebody else had the same issue as well. Any insight on that?
Well, what I would say is, and I flagged one or two of those. I've heard that if you could come to me directly, and I'm about to post my email and my phone number. Text is fine, whatever's easiest for you. What I'd like to do is start you doing a casework. So I'm going to send you a form that just authorizes us to talk about your particular issue, and I'm going to do that right away. I'm going to stress that's for Chino Hills businesses, but I know that Sol, who may not be on the call today, but your congressional representation in Chino is going to help you the same way. And what we're going to do is we're going to contact the SBA directly on your behalf, which elevates it. But that's really helpful for us as well because it lets us see where the complications and the bottlenecks are. That's not as advertised, and that's not what we're hearing from SBA. So if it's not happening for you, we need to know about it.
Okay, and then we have another question about if people owe taxes, are they still eligible for the stimulus check?
I believe they are, but nothing forgives your taxes. So the government giveth and the government taketh away, and I wish I had a happier answer on that regard, but I don't think there's any relief in the stimulus for unpaid or owed taxes. I mean, for instance, people are still required to make their quarterly payments or get kind of jammed up if you're a 1099 and doing your own payments. And I know I've looked into that. So that part of the tax code has not changed. There's no relief there.
Okay, and then does the state, I get asked the same question, somebody wanted me to ask the same question that we asked the state senator. Does the state have a plan to help out covered California subscribers and pay their share of coverage during the crisis?
I'm sorry, does the state have a plan? Could you repeat that? I didn't understand the question.
Then forgive me if I'm butchering it a little bit, but so the way that I understand it, does the state have a plan to help out covered? I know this isn't for you. Have a plan to help out covered California subscribers and pay their share of the coverage during this crisis.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that one aside. Perhaps Senator Leyva would like to speak to that.
She chimed in already. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
I'm posting now, so and let the questions begin.
Oh, that's right. And that was another comment that said, make sure you include the link for the webinar or the event that you have later.
Yeah.
The town hall. Okay, great. Thank you.
It's all in there. I'm about to cut and paste it now. Thanks, Seb.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we should have Supervisor Curt Hagman, County Supervisor and Chairman of the County Supervisors, Curt Hagman. Curt, are you there?
Yeah, sure am, Zeb. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
No video. I don't know about that, but oh well. Sorry about no video. I'd just give you a quick update. A lot going on in the county, as you can imagine right now. There are currently 977 reported COVID-19 cases here. I'm very unfortunate we lost 31 so far. We're exceeding probably about 9,500 tests countywide, and we actually have more tests going on today. For up-to-date information we have on our sanbernardinocounty.gov website, we have daily counts on those numbers if people are interested. Our new order this week was to wear masks outside, and toward the end of last week, and that means basically you just have one on you. So if you're walking your dog by yourself, we're not going to give you a ticket or something for walking around without your mask on. But if you get close to other people, and we would please ask you to put it on. It's very important. The physical distancing, I don't like the social distance term, the physical distancing, the wearing the mask, and the proper hygiene and wash your hands makes a huge difference. And the sooner we get that stuff done, the better off we are to get back into what our new normal will be. So wear your mask outdoors. You don't need to wear it while you're driving or anything, but if you pull up to the drive-through, put it on. Just use common sense on that. We have announced yesterday a recovery coalition of 8 different industries that will be looking at what will be the new standards and how we start to reopen, get people back to work. So I'm very excited about that. We have our business leaders, which we'll get you the information, Zeb, on that. What will the practicalities be to get people back to work and get us back to eating at our local restaurants and going shopping at our local retail outlets and get people back in their office settings? We're going to put the plans together. We're trying to coordinate that with the state and our scientists and data that we go through to make sure that we're doing it properly. Think about how we phased into this. We started off with the high-risk population staying in, and then we went to the stay-at-home orders. I'm looking at probably reversing some of those things and coming up with additional standards that we may have that would make sense on a long term. Short term, we got to figure out how to get people back to work. Long term, we're waiting for that vaccination to come in, but we still know that's several months, if not a year away. So we got to work on the interim plan of how we get people back outdoors. So that's starting right now. We are doing multiple drive-in areas throughout the county today. Actually, as soon as I get off this, I'm going to Montclair. We have drive-through testing today between 10 and 2 in Montclair. We have Rancho coming up and 5 additional locations or something like that as we get information in. We have started a whole bunch of work with our homeless, at least the high-risk population homeless. We actually toured our Glen Helen campsite yesterday. We have 20 brand new trailers from the state of California. Thank you, state of California, to host high vulnerable homeless or families of homeless up there. These are not COVID positive folks. These are just people that we're trying to get out of living closely together to keep them safe. We're also doing a lot of hotels throughout regional areas to get our homeless into different places to go. We're not gonna get everybody. Obviously, we just have funds for probably the high-risk population, and it's going to be short-term. It's not a long-term solution by any means, but we're working on that. We're like most other jurisdictions right now, taking our public comments via email and that sort of thing for our Board of Supervisors meetings. We are broadcasting them live as always, but if you have questions or comments for us, please submit those to, and there's links on our board website on that. Very unique thing is about a week ago, we started a incident management team of fire agencies, the first time in the county's history of all 19 agencies getting together and joining a task force to handle the COVID-19 virus. They're doing a fantastic job, and want to thank Chino Valley for being a great partner. I see our guys there all the time when I go to the Incident Management Team Center. And what they do is they work together. They share the resources. If we have a team out because they tested positive, we can backfill for the agencies to make sure we have everyone's responding to 911 if we need to. We have that working very well. We also have a nursing task force going on for nursing homes. We have 171 state licensed nursing facilities in San Bernardino County with over 6,600 residents. And these are the extremely high vulnerable population. So we came down, we did additional education, we're doing additional testing, we're setting some orders there so professionals can't go from one facility to the other and cross-contaminate different facilities. And we work with the state experts on that to make sure that's the highest level of protection we can get for our seniors. And we're working on a couple of hotspots in those after a recent outbreak in Yokaipa to make sure we're on top of that. We have a Joint Information Center hotline that can answer many questions from our public. We get thousands of calls each week so far. And if you can write this down, it's 909-387-3911. That's 387-3911. And that will be also, you can connect to our website again to have questions and that sort of thing as you go forward. Our Economic Development Department is doing a webinar on SBA loans, and the information's on our website for that as well. And I think, Zeb, that's about it. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of different departments. We're fully scaled up, and we're trying to put out the fires and plan ahead all at the same time. I'm happy to answer questions. We do have people. My staff is manning our district office and our office out of San Bernardino. Obviously, limited crew, like many. We have a lot of people who do remote working from their homes, but we do have the phones answered all the time as well.
Okay, perfect. We did have at least one question. So we have, there's been some kind of questions about the religious community assembling during this stay-at-home mandate. Do you have any insight into that? Any comments about how that? Yeah,
a few. First of all, and we've been putting a lot of pressure, I have, on my staff to get things turned around quicker. This is a hourly event, daily event, and we need to get information out to our public as fast as we can get going. So our health department put out an order that was, let me say, poorly worded at best, and went out without us taking a look at it before it went out in the press release. And it caused a lot of confusion, and I will take the responsibility as chairman, and I apologize on behalf of that team to get that poor email out. I think it was on a Thursday. That within the next morning, we corrected that and got the correct news release out. We also updated all our current orders as of yesterday afternoon to put more specificity in there so people can know that, more details, like wearing the mask. It's trying to be very pragmatic, but we did reach out to our faith-based communities. We have conference calls almost daily like you do with different groups, the mayors I have later on this afternoon, our faith-based leaders. We're trying to work with them within their creativeness. There's so much creativity between our small business and our faith-based organizations to have the services and still keep some of the parameters there, the social distancing. I have one pastor who's doing drive-in services in a drive-in movie theater, and everyone stays in their cars. We're fully supportive of that any way we can, at the same time trying to protect the health of our residents. Same time, one of the groups, Sacramento, filed a lawsuit against the county, the state of California, and several other counties, I think Riverside as well, just recently saying that we can't restrict their group to gather. There's already some smaller court rulings that say we can for public health purposes. We want to support our churches, and we want them to do the good work they're doing for our community every day, even more important now than ever to make that happen. And we'll be working with them hand in hand to be as flexible as we can with the orders. And frankly, I want to get us back to all our businesses opening up as well as quickly as we can. And that's why it's so important for us as residents to mind the mask orders and the physical distancing. That will keep our numbers low, and we're able to do a lot more things that way. So that's the latest on those parts.
Okay, good. And then we also, I think people missed the phone number that you provided earlier. Can you share your number again that people can get in touch with you or your team?
For the JIC or my office?
That's a good question. How about both?
Okay.
if it's possible.
The JIC number is 909. We call it the Joint Information Center, 387-3911. That's 387-3911. My district office for Chino Valley is 909-465-5265. That's 465-5265.
Okay, perfect. And then we did have another question that came in. For those people that are blatantly disregarding the social distancing guidelines, so like they're having a party or they're having a big, bash at at a local park or something like that, is there a county hotline number that can be called, or is that something that the cities handle?
It's a combination of both. Our JIC hotline that I gave you earlier, about 50% of the calls are people that are violating the order. And that's why it's important for this peer pressure and for us to keep hammering the same message over and over and over, because it's not sinking through our population, and our health officials won't feel free to start releasing us until we all start to comply with it. I foresee us in the future, doing things like we do in Target and everything else. Well, there'll be physical barriers. We'll be wearing masks. We'll be doing things that very, smart, the way the private sector on the some of those retailers are already doing, but in more organized way from some health orders. That's how I kind of see us unfolding, but it only works if people are following the basic rules of the distancing and the masks. So yes, we get a lot of complaints. We are following up a lot with letters. We're not, sending deputies out to go break up things right now. But I know other cities are doing more aggressive. They're sending code enforcement officials out and trying to, urge them to do the right thing right now. And that's for their own safety and the safety of their friends and family that they're gathering with. Is, I don't mind people talking 6 feet away, and I, in fact, encourage the socialization. We need that in our community right now, but do so from a safe distance and do so to protect yourself and your family.
Perfect. County Supervisor and Chairman of the County Supervisors, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate the insight that you gave, and appreciate you coming on here on a weekly basis to give those updates. So thank you.
Always. Thank you.
Okay, and then so next on our list is, and also I want to say something about, we put an update on our Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce page. It's a COVID-19 update page giving all the resources, and a lot of the information that we pull is directly from the county. So Chairman Hagman, on his website, he has a great resource for news regarding the COVID-19 updates, the press releases that are coming out from the county. He's posting those on his site. So anything that's coming out with his county related information is a great resource. So I definitely encourage you to check out his website. With that, I want to bring on from the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, the director, Steve Elie. Steve?
Can you hear me okay, Zeb?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, I've got my work at home attire on. Kudos to Chino Valley Fire for sharing a great hat, and then our IUA wear. I assume most of you are looking the same. So at IUA, we're prioritizing safety of our staff and community, as well as continuing to provide our essential services, wastewater collection and treatment. We've temporarily had to suspend conservation programs due to the inability to include social distancing. We're conducting our public meetings all online with telephonic and video participation. We continue to focus on the safety of our employees, a number of which actually live in our area. We're ensuring appropriate protective gear, face masks, et cetera, is available, and using social media to communicate. Significantly for the issue of the economy, et cetera, we continue to ensure timely payment of our vendors and employees, and with no disruption of execution of contracts, and supporting our employees working off-site. The operations staff continue to work in alternative schedules and maintaining good safety and permit compliance records while maximizing social distancing and working, et cetera. Demands on water from the Metropolitan Water District, of which we're a member, are lower than budgeted. And there's plenty of water and storage to meet all water demands, especially now that everybody's at home washing their hands more than they ever have. Even though the precipitation up north has been modest, what's in storage and what's in the Chino Basin underneath where most of our water actually generally comes from is safe and fine. Our construction projects are continuing while staff and contractors practice physical distancing and utilizing the appropriate safety commitment. We have a very large construction project. Our rebuild of Regional Plant 5 is about to go to bid. We did delay the bidding because of some concerns by contractors about getting their bids in on time, but we're doing everything we can to keep the economy going while we continuing to provide safe, essential services. One interesting little tidbit, we've been monitoring sewage flows due to the stay-at-home directive. We actually haven't seen a change in flows, which is kind of surprising, but we have seen a delay as to when we get our morning peaks. So I guess everybody working at home means they get up a little later and they don't take their showers quite as early in the morning. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I see there is a question from Jim Gallagher about delaying the anticipated sewer rate increase. That hasn't been addressed yet. It is a district-wide, and it actually has already gone on some people's Prop 218, so I don't know the answer to that question. We certainly can talk about it. It is 60 cents a month per house, starting July 1, so I don't know if that's possible, but we'll certainly talk about it.
Steve, what is the biggest kind of challenge that IUA is facing right now?
Making sure that our employees remain safe, that people are mindful of the precautions. We are looking, the chief mentioned earlier that the parks are still open, but people can't use equipment. We have a very large park, 23 acres or so, at our facility on Kimball and El Prado. We've been looking at whether we could be closing that due to people not observing social distancing and things like that. But we transitioned pretty quickly and pretty well to people working at home as best we can. So anybody who's non-essential to be in the office, we've put them at home. That was a fairly seamless transition, but nonetheless, you constantly have to be vigilant and responding to questions. We've been getting questions about what's in the sewage and whether our workers are being exposed. Certainly the wastewater normally has a number of viruses, bacteria, and other issues that they have to worry about in their day-to-day job. So that's a normal thing to worry about. So those are kind of some of the things, we are, as a government entity of 300 employees, we're not unlike a lot of other businesses that are essential. We want to keep up the level of service while still maintaining our ability to serve.
What's kind of the biggest adjustment from your customers? Like, what's the biggest change that you've seen with your customers? Is there anything that's kind of consistent that's since the coronavirus came out that this is a struggle that they're facing, or?
Well, the people we deal with directly, because we're a wholesaler, the people we deal with directly are the cities. So we're trying to give the cities and the water district, like Cucamonga Valley and Rancho, as much support as we can. So we have to adjust, and meetings have gone virtual. So that's obviously one of the biggest things. Is you're missing the human connection of being there, and obviously Zoom meetings aren't quite the same, but we are ready, willing, and able to provide support as they need it. I think both of our cities, Chino and Chino Hills, are well prepared and doing a great job. They haven't, as far as I can tell, it's been seamless for vis-a-vis the water and wastewater systems. So business is moving as much as we can, and obviously helping people out.
Okay, perfect. Steve, thank you so much for coming on and giving your insights with us. I really do appreciate it.
Sure.
And our last panelist of the day is he is the executive director of the Western region of the U.S. Chamber, Jennings Imel. Jennings, are you there?
Yep. Thanks, Zeb.
Hey,
Can you
you're
hear me?
welcome. Thank you. Yes, we can.
Very good. Well, thanks for having me. I'll talk a little bit about some of really the two big programs for small businesses. I think that's kind of the most relevant topic for the folks that are on the call that were included in the CARES Act, and kind of what the status of those programs is, and then what kind of the state of play currently looks like in Washington, D.C. to address some of the issues that we're seeing, and then just some of the general stuff around COVID-19 that we're working on at the U.S. Chamber. So first of all, the two big programs, the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program that was in the CARES Act, $350 billion. Obviously, we've seen tremendous demand for this program. It went live on April 3rd, so it's only been live technically for 11 days. That's when small businesses were first allowed to submit their applications to their lender for those loans, and then we saw on April 10th, that's when independent contractors and self-employed sole proprietors were able to submit those applications as well. And I think as of yesterday, we had already seen something like 880,000 applications have been approved. PPP applications have been approved worth over $215 billion. So that's over 60% of the $350 billion that was originally allocated for the program under the CARES Act. And so that's why there's a big concern in Washington, D.C. that we're going to run out of money for this program. Some folks seem to think that it'll run out of money as early as this week. Others by the end of the month. I think it's more likely by the end of the month. I'm not exactly sure what the day is going to be, but certainly at some point here in the month of April, it looks like that program is on target to possibly run out of money. So that's going to be an issue that Congress is going to have to address, and I'm sure that you all have heard. Congress attempted to do so last week. The Senate tried to vote on infusing an additional $250 billion worth of money into that program. They tried to vote on that through unanimous consent. So essentially where they'd get all 100 senators to agree, and then they wouldn't have to go back to Washington, D.C. for an actual roll call vote. That failed. As of right now, we're kind of in a difficult situation where Republicans and Democrats still kind of have to work with one another. Republicans more so pushing for just the straight $250 billion addition to the program. Democrats also wanting to see additional money for states and counties and local municipalities, as well as additional money for hospitals and things like that. So that kind of needs to be worked out. It remains to be seen what the timeline is going to be for that, but certainly they have to act at some point pretty soon if they want to keep this program going and make sure that nobody gets cut off. And what kind of complicates the matter a little bit more is the fact that the House and Senate was announced, I think, yesterday that the House is not planning to go back until May 3rd. They were originally scheduled to go back on April 20th. So if you can't do this by unanimous consent, whatever the agreement is between Republicans and Democrats, then you're going to have folks go back to Washington, D.C. And do either a roll call vote or voice vote or something like that. And it remains to be seen exactly how that's going to play out. But certainly from the U.S. Chamber's perspective, we are pushing for more money for the PPP program. We're also pushing for more money for the EIDL program. So that's the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which a lot of people had also tried to take advantage of. This is a program that's been around for a number of decades. Usually businesses can take advantage of this program if they've been impacted by a natural disaster. So it's unlike the PPP, which was part of the CARES Act, which is a totally new program. But previously, the EIDL program only had $10 billion lending capacity. That was increased to $17 billion in the phase one package, the phase one coronavirus package that Congress passed over a month ago. So $17 billion lending capacity, and the amount of loans that we've seen, or the applications that we've seen for this program, far exceeds $17 billion. And so that's why we saw the SBA kind of roll back some of the expectations. The expectation was that you could get a maximum loan up to $2 million working capital for 30-year term. Well, we saw last week that the SBA said, actually, no, we're going to run out of money. We can't do that. The maximum loan amount that we're going to be able to give folks is about $15,000. So nowhere near, obviously, that $2 million figure. Disappointing for sure. And also just the fact that the SBA has been so overwhelmed with all of these applications, they just don't have the bandwidth for it. That's why we're seeing a lot of these issues with lag time, people that have applied many weeks ago and haven't heard anything back. We've heard that it could take 2 to 3 weeks for somebody at the SBA just to even look at your application. So, it's been frustrating, but I think kind of the advice that we're giving to a lot of folks that are applying or thinking about applying for an EIDL loan or the PPP loan is that the PPP is specifically, it's designed to be faster and to get money pumped back into the system as quick as possible. Hard as that is to believe, because people have had issues with that as well, it's a much quicker system because you don't have the SBA administering this directly. This is done through banks and credit unions and your local lenders. So it should be able, once kind of banks are able to absorb that first wave of applications and start to process those, it should be able to go a lot smoother and a little bit faster. The SBA, on the other hand, though, that has been a little bit more problematic. On the $10,000 grant issue, I know that issue came up earlier. We received more kind of guidance on what that program or what that specifically is going to look like last week. Instead of getting $10,000, because we had assumed that it was just a $10,000 upfront cash advance grant. Well, no, it's actually up to $10,000. And it sounds like they're basing it on a $1,000 per employee. So that's what you'll be eligible for. And then as far as that 3-day window is concerned, it's not you get $10,000 or up to $10,000 within 3 days of applying for the loan. It's you get that amount of money within 3 days of receiving a confirmation email from the SBA that your loan has been processed and approved, or at least the $10,000 has been processed and approved. So there's been a lot of confusion on that as well. And I don't know how long it's going to take for folks to receive that email. Like I said, it could take weeks to receive that confirmation email from the SBA. So that's why you're seeing a lot of frustration with the expectation that they're going to be receiving this grant in 3 days, and that's ultimately not happening. So a lot of problems. We think that they're going to get worked out, especially on the PPP side. Over time, we're seeing a lot of lenders come online. This week, we're going to see fintech lenders start to come online. So companies like Square are going to start accepting applications as well and processing loans. So that's good news. I think that the capacity is going to start to build. Banks are kind of getting things rolling a little bit. I'd heard a lot of frustrations on this program. I do these webinars every day with chambers across the West. And last Friday was the first time I'd heard somebody actually receiving money from their PPP application, which was great news. And so hopefully that'll continue into this week. Folks are actually going to start to see money coming into their accounts. So that's where we're at on that. We're going to continue to push, though, for Congress to address this issue. We need more money for both of these programs, especially for the PPP program. The other issue that we're pushing Congress on is to include 501c6s and make them eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program. So that's chambers of commerce, local chambers of commerce throughout the country. They need assistance more so now than ever. They are really kind of looked at as the go-to resource. And that's what we've seen in the last couple of weeks with all the panic and the stress about what's happening and how do I get access to these loans. People and businesses are really looking to chambers, and it's unfortunate that chambers are providing this resource, but they're struggling to survive right now and keep their doors open. So they need to be eligible for this help as well. We really thank Congressman Cisneros too for his leadership on this. He has signed on to a letter. It was a Dear Colleague letter that was sent to Speaker Pelosi and leadership, stressing the importance of including C6s and making them eligible for relief in the next phase 4 package. So really helpful to see that. So I just wanted to say thanks. And that's another issue that we're going to continue to push. And then beyond that, something that we've started today is a conversation on, or actually yesterday, on path forward. And this was discussed also earlier in the call, is how do we go about reopening the economy? That's something that we're hearing a lot about. And certainly I think we have to really kind of be diligent and kind of pay close attention to how we're going to do that in kind of a phased in, responsible manner. So that means, how do we expand, COVID-19 testing, more health screenings, the use and installment of protective equipment as well into employment places, assistance for childcare centers, assistance for transportation networks that are going to be under stress that aren't going to be able to have the capacity that they were because of social distancing measures, things like that. And then really, I think a big part of the focus is going to be on kind of the regulatory legal liability, because we're going to be operating in obviously a totally new era now, even when things start to get up and going. And so businesses are going to be asked to collect healthcare data on people. So how do we address privacy issues there? There's going to be discrimination issues because, there's, what are we going to do with folks that are, elderly or potentially high risk? What does their employment situation look like? And if for those folks, if they, don't want to go back to work or want to stay home to protect themselves, we have to talk about expanding unemployment insurance opportunities for them. There's all kinds of legal liability issues that go along with this too. I'm sure that you can imagine that those are out there. And so we're going to really have to pay close attention to this stuff and figure out ways to address it. And so we've kind of started that conversation this week, and we're talking to Congress, and we're absolutely open to getting more ideas and input as well from the business community throughout the country. But I think that's a conversation that needs to start taking place. I know that kind of short on time here, so I'll wrap it up there, and then happy to take any questions if you all have any.
Cool. Yes, we do have some questions for you. One of the questions comes from, what are local chambers doing to assure business continuity in their communities? Have you seen any creative applications from chambers to help support businesses in their community?
I don't know about applications. I've seen obviously a lot of these webinars that we've been doing have been really helpful. Chambers have put together. I think you even mentioned it, Zeb. There's like a coronavirus portal or something like that you've put together. It's Chino Valley Chambers. So chambers are doing that kind of thing where they're linking to SBA information or U.S. Chamber information. We have a lot of really good stuff too at uschamber.com. You go there, uschamber.com/coronavirus. You could check out some really helpful guides, FAQ sheets, one-pagers, stuff like that. So I think chambers have just been kind of that general resource. They have obviously the connections as well to just about all the lenders usually in their community. So when these questions come up about lenders or my bank's not working with me, or they said that I don't have a lending relationship with them, so I'm further down on the totem pole, what do I do now? Are there other lenders that are accepting kind of new clients? Because that's been an issue too. It's really kind of the chambers, the repository for all of that information. And so I think that chambers have done a great job of putting that online and of doing these webinars consistently with their members and getting that information out. So I think that's kind of the best thing that I've seen over the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
just to kind of fill everybody who's watching in, that is exactly why we're putting up our coronavirus update page. We're including information from the U.S. Chamber, and that's how that's how we sent the invite to Jennings, because they're sending us updates on a regular basis, and we're using those updates to fill up our coronavirus update page. We're also working with the local SBA office, and those ones are also providing resources to help locate those banks that are offering PPP loans in our community. So there's a lot of resources that are available to you on that site, and it is thanks to all the people you see that are panelists on these webinars are giving us great information. Let's see, there's another question about where do things stand with sole proprietors and 1099 businesses and their ability to file for unemployment benefits?
So they can file for unemployment insurance. That's through the state, however. So I'm not sure what the status is, but under the CARES Act, they are eligible to apply.
Cool. David sent a comment about a comprehensive list of essential businesses in our community. That's something else. So on our website, we have 3 different things that we've created. We've created a coronavirus update page. We've created restaurants that are offering delivery and takeout services on our page. And we have created a page for all of those essential businesses that are in the chamber or that are in our community that are still in operation. So we've got those 3 pages. So if you go to our homepage or our website, we have those 3 different resources to support our local businesses in the Chino Valley. Let me see if there's anything else. We have, so when you're talking about the PPP loans, you're talking about the EIDL, the forgivable components of those. So I know that I've had a question about people concerned about what is forgivable and what is not forgivable in these loan scenarios. So the PPP, can you kind of explain that a little bit, the PPP and the EIDL, and what's forgivable and what's not?
Sure. So the PPP is forgivable. So you have a portion of that loan that can be forgiven. The EIDL cannot. The EIDL, however, you can get access to up to $10,000 grant. So that is forgivable. But the loan itself will not be forgivable. It's at a fixed 3.75% interest rate over 30 years. That's for small businesses. But for the PPP, it is forgivable. For the calculation that you want to make to determine the amount that's forgivable is essentially the first 8 weeks after the origination of the loan, and the amount of money that's spent on payroll, rent, interest on mortgage, utilities. So that will give you the amount total that can be forgiven. Also, important to keep in mind, of that forgiven amount, you need to spend 75% on payroll. The other 25% can go towards Those are the things I mentioned: rent, interest on the mortgage, and utilities. So that should end up being a rather large portion of the loan that you get from PPP. Most folks will only have a little bit left over that they'd have, subject to the loan terms of 1% interest rate over 2 years.
Okay. And how do they adjust that it's going to it's going to that area, you know what I mean? So let's just say you have a business that has some funds set aside. You're losing business and you're losing customers and you want to maintain that payroll. But how do they know that those funds are going into that direct payroll slot as opposed to something else?
You have to keep that documentation. So make sure that you're maintaining your proper documentation on payroll costs, because you're going to want to apply then to the lender afterwards, after that, after the loan term, which expires on June 30th, you're going to want to have to go back to your lender and apply for the forgiveness. And if you have that documentation with you, that won't be a problem.
Okay. And then lastly, what if we furloughed, what if a company like restaurants, they furloughed all their employees right at the outset of this, and then the purpose was to keep payroll? How does a restaurant, and I know that this loan was designed for that, how does this restaurant make sure that they get that forgivable portion, and how do they handle that?
They just have to bring them back before June 30th.
Okay.
If they bring all of those employees back and then reinstate wages before June 30th, then they can have it forgiven.
Okay. And that's assuming everything opens up the way that it's intended to?
Right. And hopefully, so, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for the emails you've been sending out. We've been using those to update our members. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time to come on and be on this webinar with us. I'm just going to give some brief updates, chamber updates to those of you that are in attendance today. Like I mentioned before, we have those 3 things on our site. We have our COVID-19 update page. We have our restaurants that are offering takeout and delivery services. And we have our businesses that are still in operation during the coronavirus pandemic. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do is I am going to be putting this up on YouTube. I'll be sharing the link on our Facebook page. I'll be sending it out via email. So if you're not on an email list, make sure you get there. And if you do see this video popping up on your newsfeed, make sure you share it out there, or actually do me a favor and just, later tonight, check out this video. Make sure you share it. One of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing in our community is making sure that our businesses and locations have the information that they need. And what I've found is in these leaders workshops that we're doing is that all of our members are saying how fantastic they are and what great insights they're giving. So if that's the case, if you got some good pieces of information here today, help out those other people around you and share this when it does go out, so that we can make sure that we're informing as many businesses as possible about what's available to them and what's not, because it is important. I mean, we want to see our businesses thrive in the Chino Valley area, and the more that they take advantage of these things, the more that they're educated about what is happening, the better off our community is going to be as a result. I also want to give a reminder that tomorrow on Wednesday, we are doing our business at breakfast as usual. So we're going to have Carrie Voorhees. She's a member. She's going to be talking about estate planning. So she's going to be covering that. It's a great opportunity to network and meet other people in the Chino Valley. So that's tomorrow from 7:45 to 9. And then on Thursday, we've got a special Zoom presentation about IT solutions. So if you've been forced to work from home, your companies have been forced to work from home, this is going to cover and help out businesses or people in our area that are struggling with that transition from working from home. So we're going to have that on Thursday at noon. So be on the lookout for that through our emails as well. Jennings, thank you for coming on. Our panelists, I want to thank all of our panelists for taking time out of their day to participate in this. And I want to thank our attendees as well for signing in and checking this out. Thank you guys. And I hope you guys are all doing well. Stay safe. Keep those 6 feet, and we'll go from there. Have a great week. Thank you guys.
Thank you.